There's something about driving alone at night. It's like the world forgets you exist. I don't really know how to start this, but I guess I'll just tell it straight. This happened last weekend, and I still haven't really slept since. If I disappear or something, I just want someone to know I didn't make this up. I was driving from Portland to Spokane on a solo trip. I had a podcast going, snacks in the passenger seat, full tank. It was late, around 1:30 a.m., but I don't mind driving at night. I actually kind of like it. Roads are empty, no traffic, and the world feels quieter. I was maybe 2 hours from Spokane, somewhere in the middle of nowhere, when my GPS suddenly rerouted. The voice calmly said, "Take exit 237 in 1 mile." I remember looking around like, exit 237? I didn't even know I was near any exits. It was just dark pine forest on both sides, no lights, no towns, just miles and miles of black trees. But sure enough, I saw the sign coming up. Green highway sign, white reflective letters, exit 237, rest area, fuel. Seemed convenient. I could top off, stretch, maybe grab a coffee if it was a full-service place. I wasn't tired, but something in me was weirdly relieved, like I needed to stop. I took the exit. The ramp curved sharply, then led down into what looked like an older part of highway infrastructure. The lights were yellow instead of white, and the road narrowed with a weird incline. It felt older, like it hadn't been updated in decades. After about a quarter mile, I saw it, a full rest stop. There was a gas station, an old brick building with bathrooms and vending machines, and what looked like a 24-hour diner. Tilly's Place in faded neon. But it was off. The gas pumps were ancient, old school, like from the 70s. Analog dials, rusted edges. There were maybe 5 or 6 cars in the lot, but none of them were running. No headlights, no engine noise, just parked. I figured it was fine. Maybe it was one of those retro-style places trying to look vintage. I pulled in and stepped out. The moment I opened my door, I noticed how quiet it was. Not peaceful quiet, dead quiet. Like no bugs, no wind, no hum of electric lights, just my footsteps and the ticking of my cooling engine. I walked toward the gas station. The glass door had a paper sign that said back in 10, written in red marker that had bled slightly, like it had been rained on years ago and never replaced. Then I noticed something that chilled me straight to my core. The cars in the lot. They were all old, not retro. Old, like 80s, Buicks and 90s, Camrys. No modern models, no Teslas, no SUVs, no LED headlights. They looked like they'd been sitting there for years, but there wasn't a speck of dust on any of them. At that point, my gut started screaming. I backed up, got back in my car, and decided I'd just find another station up the road. I turned around and drove back the way I came, except there was no on-ramp. I swear on my life, the road I just came down, gone. Trees, brush. No pavement, no signs, no lighting, like it had never existed. I stopped the car, got out, walked around with my flashlight. I found an old fence post in the woods, covered in ivy, and a metal stake with a broken sign on the ground. I wiped it off. It said, "Rest area closed, do not enter, fire damage, 1992. That's when I bolted. I got back in my car, did a frantic U-turn, and sped back toward the rest stop. I don't know what I thought I'd do. Maybe find someone. But when I got there, it was abandoned, like fully abandoned. Windows shattered, weeds growing through the asphalt, diner windows boarded up. The neon sign was hanging by one chain, the lights long dead, and those cars, gone. Not parked, not moved, just gone. I drove for what felt like hours. My GPS wouldn't load. My phone had full bars but no signal. Finally, I saw a road sign for Highway 2, and I merged onto it blindly, desperate to get somewhere. At around 4:45 a.m., I pulled into a rest area that actually looked normal. Bought a Red Bull from the vending machine, sat under the fluorescent lights until the sun came up. Here's the part that really freaks me out though. When I checked Google Maps history the next day, there's no record of exit 237, no detour, no rest stop. Not even a blip on the timeline between 1:33 a.m. and 4:41 a.m. It just says, location not available. I asked online about it. A couple truckers messaged me saying they've heard about exit 237, but no one's ever found it twice. One guy said his uncle used to talk about a diner called Tilly's Place that burned down in the early 90s. 5 people died, including a little girl trapped in the bathroom. I don't know if that's true. I don't know what happened to me. But ever since that night, I keep seeing a black Buick in my rear view. No plates, tinted windows. Every time I try to slow down and let it pass, it never does. It just stays back there. Exactly 5 car lengths behind. This happened 2 years ago when I was working long-haul transport between Kansas and Colorado. I drove a box truck for a furniture outlet, and most of our runs happened at night to avoid traffic. I've been doing the route for years and never had any issues, until this one night that I still can't explain. The highway I was on was one of those old cracked 2-lane stretches. No lights, no cell signal, and barely wide enough for 2 semis to pass each other without spooking the deer. It cuts through this stretch of nothing between 2 farming towns, just open fields and barbed wire and silos, blinking red in the distance. It was around 3:40 a.m. when I first saw him. Just this man, walking right down the middle of the highway. At first I thought maybe it was a stranded motorist. He was tall, maybe 6 feet 2 inches, wearing what looked like a black coat or maybe overalls, kind of shapeless. I slowed down and flicked my high beams, and he didn't even flinch, just kept walking. What bothered me more than anything was how straight he walked, perfectly centered, like his feet knew the seam between the 2 faded yellow lines. He didn't stumble, didn't turn around, didn't even sway like someone who was drunk or injured. I steered way off to the right, tires almost in the gravel, and passed him slow. Rolled the window down a little. "Hey man, you okay?" Nothing. Not even a glance. When I checked the side mirror, he wasn't there. I mean it. He just wasn't. There were no ditches, no trees to duck behind, just cornfields. I slammed the brakes and backed up maybe 30 yards. Hit the spotlight. No one. I sat there for a minute, scanning the road, trying to decide if I just imagined it. Finally, I shook it off and kept driving. About 40 minutes later, there he was again. Same black shape, walking dead center down the road. Identical posture, same unbothered pace. Still no cars, no houses, no lights. I thought maybe it was a hallucination. I'd been up for too long, maybe. But then my CB crackled. Another driver was heading eastbound and said, "Hey, you see that guy up ahead? Looks like he's walking in the middle of the damn road." It wasn't just me. I passed the man again, and this time I kept my eyes locked on the mirror as long as I could. He never turned around, never acknowledged me, never got smaller in the mirror like someone naturally would. He just vanished. Like the moment I blinked, he was gone. Now here's the part that made me stop driving nights altogether. About 20 miles from my drop-off, my dash cam glitched. That's not weird on its own. It's old and hates cold weather. But right before it cut out, I saw him again. Except this time, he was facing me. Still standing perfectly center on the road, not moving, just standing. But now I could actually see his face, or I should say, I couldn't. It wasn't shadowed, it wasn't covered, it was just flat, like someone smoothed it over with clay. No features, no nose, no mouth, no eyes, just skin. I swerved around him and nearly clipped the guardrail. My radio was dead. Phone too. I drove the last stretch with my heart pounding so hard it felt like I was having a stroke. When I pulled into the delivery hub, I jumped out and ran inside like a lunatic. The guy at the counter looked at me like I'd just been mugged. I told him what happened, didn't even care how it sounded. He just nodded real slow and said, "You were on Highway 36, weren't you?" I said, "Yeah." He goes, "You're not the first one to see him. Apparently it's a thing. Local drivers call him Centerline Charlie. They say if you see him more than once in a night, you're marked, that he walks the roads collecting people who almost died but didn't. And eventually, when it's your time, you see him in your mirror one last time. Closer than ever." I quit night driving after that. Took a warehouse job in Aurora. Never saw him again. But sometimes I wake up in a cold sweat, feeling like headlights are in my window. And once, just once, I swore I saw a man walking down the center of my neighborhood street. And he wasn't walking. He was gliding. This happened in 2019. and I haven't talked about it online before because I figured people would either call me crazy or just say it was a stress hallucination or something. But lately, I've seen more and more posts about people having similar experiences on rural highways at night, and now I'm wondering if there's something going on that most folks just don't know about. It starts with this so-called game. Some of you might have heard of it if you drive a lot of back roads. They say that if you see a car coming toward you with no headlights on at night, you should flash your own headlights once. Just a quick flick like, "Hey man, turn your lights on." It's basic highway etiquette. But there's this legend, especially out west and down south, that you should never flash your lights if you're driving alone after midnight. They say it isn't a person you're warning. They say it's something else. I didn't know any of that when it happened. I was driving back from a job interview in Nevada. I'd left later than I should have and wound up taking a 2-lane state highway through Utah to cut time. It was past 1 a.m., and I was about halfway between 2 tiny towns. No gas stations, no street lights, just scrub brush and telephone poles and the occasional distant outline of cattle fencing. I'd been on the road for about 20 minutes without seeing another soul when I saw a pair of headlights coming toward me in the distance. As it got closer, I realized it wasn't headlights. It was a car driving with no lights on at all, not even parking lights. Just this dark shape rolling silently toward me in the opposite lane. So, like any normal person, I flicked my brights. The moment I did, something changed. It's hard to explain, but it felt like the air in the car shifted, like pressure dropped or something. My ears popped like I'd driven over a mountain pass, except I was still on flat desert highway. The car didn't respond. No lights, no brake tap, nothing. It passed me slow. I mean unnaturally slow. I got a good look at it as it went by. It was a dark-colored Crown Victoria, windows tinted black, no plates. I checked my rear view as it rolled past, but there was nothing behind me. No tail lights, no shape. The road was just empty again. I thought maybe it had turned off down a side road or something. I tried not to think too hard about it, but 5 minutes later, I looked up at the mirror again, and there it was, right behind me. Same Crown Vic, no lights, no plates, just following me, maybe 10 car lengths back. I could barely make it out, but it was there. I sped up. It matched my speed. I slowed down to 45. So did it. I tried to call someone, anyone. My phone had full bars but said no service. Maps wouldn't load. The time on the dash was stuck at 1:17 a.m. I even turned the car off and back on while coasting. Still 1:17. Still being followed. After about 15 minutes of this, the road curved slightly, and I lost sight of the car behind me for just a second. When the road straightened out again, it was gone. Completely. I drove another 10 miles to a highway truck stop. It was nearly 3:30 a.m. by then. I hadn't stopped once, but my GPS had skipped over an entire hour. I checked the dash again, 1:17. Still, I asked the guy inside if I could use their landline to call my brother. I tried to explain, but I knew how it sounded. He just looked at me and said, "You flashed your lights, didn't you?" I said, "Yeah." He gave me this long look and said, "You're lucky. Some folks don't get away. You keep driving. Don't stop for nothing on the road. If you see it again, don't look in the mirror." That stuck with me. Don't look in the mirror. Ever since that night, weird things keep happening. Sometimes when I drive late, I'll glance up and swear I see a Crown Vic behind me. No lights, always just outside the glow of my taillights. Sometimes I check my mirrors and see headlights coming straight at me from behind, even when I know I'm alone. Once I looked too long, and I swear to God, I saw someone sitting in my back seat, not moving, just the outline of a head and shoulders. I blinked and it was gone. I started driving only during the day after that. Sold the old car, got therapy, moved states. But here's the thing that really haunts me. Every digital clock I've owned since that night, alarm clocks, microwaves, dashboard clocks, they always glitch and freeze on 1:17 a.m. And no matter what I do, every few weeks I find myself wide awake at 1:17, staring at the ceiling, listening to the sound of tires crunching gravel just outside my window. I don't look. I don't check. I don't flash my lights anymore. And if you're smart, you won't either. I've been a trucker for 28 years, give or take. Long hauls mostly, interstate stuff. Nights alone on back highways, sleeping in the cab while semis rattle past outside. It's not glamorous, but it keeps the lights on. And truth be told, I've always liked the quiet. Except once. I was driving a solo route through western Nebraska, mid-October, about 2 years back. It was one of those jobs where the dispatch messed up and didn't stagger us out properly. So I ended up with an overnight stretch on Highway 83. Just me, an old Freightliner, and a deadline. Most guys don't use CBs anymore unless they're old school, but I still keep mine on. Habit, I guess. It's good for speed trap warnings, or if you're stuck behind a wreck. I usually keep it on channel 19, but that night, it was just static, dead quiet. Around 2:30 a.m., I switched over to channel 7. Don't ask me why, just bored maybe. What I heard wasn't a trucker. It started soft, static, then this faint, whispery voice, like a girl trying not to cry.
Hello, please, can anyone hear me?
That stopped me cold. I turned the squelch down, thinking maybe it was a prank, but it kept going.
I'm cold. I think I'm in the dark. There's a light, but it's so far.
Her voice was broken, scared. You know when someone's been crying so hard their throat's wrecked? It was like that. I responded, Breaker 7, this is Ironbound, you okay? You lost out there? Nothing, just crackling. Then,
he put me in the trunk?
My heart about stopped. I slammed the brakes and pulled off onto the shoulder. My first thought was, this is a real emergency. Maybe someone's daughter got taken, and somehow she keyed a radio open. But then I realized, no modern car has a CB, and kids today wouldn't even know how to use one. Still, I asked, what's your location, sweetheart? What mile marker? Can you hear me? She said,
I can hear you. I think he's still driving.
Dead silence. Then,
wait, he heard me.
That was it. The radio went full static. Then a loud pop, like someone yanked the mic cord out. I sat there in the dark, hazard lights blinking, trying to figure out what the hell just happened. I took out my phone, called 911, gave them everything, route, time, even told them the exact frequency. The dispatcher sounded skeptical, but they said they'd send someone to check the stretch of road. I figured that was it. I was wrong. About 3 weeks later, I was on the same route, coming back southbound. Just before midnight, I got curious and switched back to channel 7. Static. Then, I heard it again.
Hello, please, can anyone hear me?
Same exact voice, same cadence. I didn't say anything this time. I just listened. Every word she said was identical, like a tape.
I'm cold. I think I'm in the dark. There's a light, but it's so far.
Same line. Then she said,
He put me in the trunk.
And then,
wait, he heard me.
Pop. Dead air. My hair stood up. It was a loop, not a live signal. So, what the hell was it? The next day, I pulled into a truck stop diner up north and asked around. A couple old-timers were there, guys who'd been driving longer than me. I asked if anyone had ever picked up something weird on Channel 7. One guy froze mid-bite and said, "Was it the girl?" I nodded. He pushed his plate away and said, "Don't answer her. Doesn't matter what she says. That ain't a cry for help. It's a trap." I asked what he meant. He told me that years ago, 1993, he said, there really was a girl found in a trunk off Highway 83. Teenager, runaway. They say she was taken from a rest area and killed just a few miles south of where I first heard the voice. The guy who did it drove around for hours with her body in the back before dumping her in a culvert. The weird thing? That exact stretch of road, between mile markers 212 and 226, is known among older truckers as the Loop. Not because it curves, but because some signals get stuck there. They don't broadcast, they replay. I've never tuned to Channel 7 again. But I have this fear I can't shake. Like one night, I'm gonna flip through the static just to stay awake, and I'll hear her again. And what scares me more than anything is that I'll answer. And this time, she'll say something different. This happened in Texas about a year ago. I was driving for a rideshare company part-time to cover some medical bills, and it was a Sunday night. Slow, nothing unusual. I just dropped someone off in a small town west of Houston and was heading back toward the city on an old back road known as Loop 6. Locals told me later that Loop 6 doesn't really lead anywhere anymore. It used to connect to a refinery or something back in the 70s, but now it's just a 12-mile loop through woods and brush, with a couple side roads that dead end into nowhere. I didn't know that at the time. It was just after 11 p.m. when I saw her. A young woman, early 20s maybe, standing on the gravel shoulder with one hand up like she was hailing a cab. She had a white hoodie on, dark jeans, and long tangled hair. No bag, no phone in sight. Now, I know you're not supposed to pick up hitchhikers, and I never do. But something about her stopped me. She looked shaken, like she'd been crying. Her face was pale, and she had this blank stare that looked more numb than scared. It was cold out, and she didn't even flinch when the wind hit her. I slowed down and rolled the window down halfway. "You okay?" I asked. She nodded slowly, didn't say anything at first. Then, in a voice just barely above a whisper, she said,
"Can you take me home?"
I said, "Sure." She got in the back seat. That part sticks with me now, the back seat. She didn't ask to sit up front. Most people do, especially when it's late and they're alone. But she just climbed in back and stared straight ahead, hands in her lap. I asked her for the address. She mumbled something I didn't quite catch. I turned the interior lights on to make out her face. She looked off. Her skin was pale and waxy, like someone who'd been inside too long. Her eyes didn't focus right, like she was looking through me, not at me. And her hoodie? It was soaked in something dark around the neckline. I thought maybe she'd been in a fight or had an accident. I asked again for the address, a little louder. She said,
"It's just down the loop, by the old billboard."
There was a billboard I'd seen earlier, half collapsed, advertising a furniture outlet that had gone out of business in 1999. I figured maybe there was a side road nearby I hadn't noticed. I drove. She said nothing. No breathing, no movement, just stared. When we got near the billboard, I slowed down. The road dipped slightly, and I saw a gravel pull off on the right. Looked like it led to a run-down house or a shed, maybe 500 feet off the road. "You live here?" I asked. No response. I turned to look, and the back seat was empty. Door still locked. No sound, no feeling of weight leaving the car. Just gone. I whipped around, scanned the woods, hit the brights. Nothing. Then my phone buzzed. I looked down, and for 1 second my rideshare app was open. A trip had just ended. The passenger name? Amy. Loop 6, 11:12 p.m. I don't take riders manually. I hadn't accepted a ping. I drove home on adrenaline and panic. Parked in my apartment lot and just sat there for a while. I didn't even lock the door. I couldn't move. A few days later, I brought it up to a mechanic who used to work law enforcement. He asked where it happened, and when I told him Loop 6, he stopped cold. Said there was a girl named Amy Vargas who went missing out there in 2003, early 20s, hitchhiking home from a party. She was found months later, partially buried behind the billboard. They identified her by the blood on her hoodie. The weirdest part? There's a laminated missing persons flyer stapled to the billboard support post. I've seen it. It's her. Same face, same hoodie. And someone keeps replacing it. Fresh copy, no weather damage. Every time I've gone back, it's always there, like new. I reported the incident to the company. They said there was no record of a passenger named Amy that night. No trip log, nothing. And now, sometimes when I drive near the edge of town, I get pinged for pickups that disappear before I get there. No name, no destination, just a pin. Always on Loop 6.